Hey, you cool cats and kittens. Carol Baskin here. And I just wanted to say that I did indeed feed my ex-husband to a tiger. And a few days later, I went outside to watch that tiger poop out my ex-husband. And you know what I did with that poop? I made it into a pie and I ate it. Sorry. If you watch The Tiger King on Netflix, you'll get that reference. But anyways, in this video, I want to talk about the violence in The Last of Us Part 2. Specifically, Naughty Dog's advancements with their body damage and gore systems. Now, as we know in the first game, you could blow an enemy's stomach open and their intestines would come out. You could blow both legs, arms, and heads off. But it seems like they've really taken that to the next level in Part 2. But before we dive into that, I want to talk about a feature that was in the first game that may not be in the second game, and it has me a little bit disappointed. So as you know, in the first game, if you're Joel and you're completely unarmed, you have no weapons in your hands, and you toss a bottle or a brick at an enemy, it'll stun them. And then when you run up on them and choose to strike them, you'll hit them to the ground, and it'll give you an opportunity to pull out your gun and have them beg for their lives before you shoot them in the face. Well, from what I can see in Part 2, we're not going to be able to do that. So let's just play this clip right quick. So as you can see, she tosses the bottle, runs up, boom, pulls out the switchblade, stabs her in the throat, and takes the hammer. Now don't get me wrong, this animation is amazing. I can't wait to see all the different ways you can disarm an enemy. And I'm hoping you can also disarm not only melee enemies, but also enemies that have guns. But the reason I'm disappointed is because one of my favorite features in the first Last of Us was tossing a brick at an enemy, punching them to the ground, and having them beg for their lives. And as you can see here, she doesn't have the switchblade in her hand. And when you run up, you have two options, grab or strike. She chooses to strike, but instead of punching the enemy to the ground and pulling out a gun and having them beg for their lives, she automatically kills the enemy with a switchblade to the throat. And I just find that a little disappointing. Now we do know, even though Neil Druckmann has said Ellie's the only playable character, we know we're going to be playing as Joel at least once in The Last of Us Part 2. And I'm hoping if you can't knock somebody to the ground and have them beg for their lives as Ellie, that we'll be able to do that as Joel whenever we play as him. Because that's one feature that I loved so much about the first game, and I would hate if the second game didn't have that. But anyways, now we're going to talk about the actual violence in the Last of Us Part 2. So let's go ahead and delve deep into it, shall we? So we're starting it off right here. This was from the trailer they released last year. Now as you can see, she stabs him in the throat. But before she stabbed him in the throat, she stabbed him in the stomach. Now I feel like this is going to be one of those switchblade executions that is going to get repetitive and old really fast, because we've already seen it like 3 or 4 times between the trailer and the gameplay they released last year. But what she does is she stabs him in the stomach and stabs him in the neck, and then they fall over. But I'm more interested in the actual outcome of the violence other than the actual animation of the violence. So as you can see right here, she stabbed him in the stomach. Now look at that wound. How gnarly is that wound? I mean, there's blood all around it. It looks like an actual, stab wound. Now, if you look at the gore and the body damage in pretty much every other video game, they try their best to make it look somewhat real, but you can always see the fakeness in it. You can always tell that it's just like an overlay over the NPC model. But I feel like Naughty Dog is taking this shit to the next level, and they're actually making it where you properly damage an NPC's model. It's not just an overlay. And we'll talk about that further in the next scene. Now right here's what I'm talking about. So in the first game, you can blow somebody's stomach open, blow both their arms and legs off, and you can blow their head off. Now in the first game, you couldn't blow parts of the head off. Every time you used a shotgun on somebody's face, their whole head would just be completely obliterated. Now watch this. Aims at the head, boom. As you can see, most of the head is still intact. Wherever she was aiming, that's the part of the head that got destroyed. As you can see, she blew the chin off, part of the cheekbone. She blew some of the chest open. You got, you know, part of the chin and the cheek and shit flying in the air, the blood coming out. I mean, this is some Manhunt, Soldier of Fortune level gore right here, taken to the fucking next level. I mean, this is the type of gore we would have probably seen if Rockstar wasn't scared to make a Manhunt 3. And I feel like everybody who's a fan of the Manhunt series is probably going to adore this game because of the gore and the disgusting kill moves that you're going to be able to do in this game. It's crazy. Now this one's awesome. Boom. Now as you can see, she sliced here. You can see the cut, blood around it. She sliced the cheek, as you can see the cut on the cheek. When she sliced her stomach, you've seen the blood splash on the environment. And since there's really not much environment for the cheek blood to splash on, you don't really see it here. But oh my god, just look at the detail in that wound. In that wound. And don't get me wrong, this isn't the first game to have, you know, body damage from knives and swords and shit. Because even Red Dead Redemption 2 has that. Like when you're using a knife and you're slicing up an enemy, you can see the cuts. But the cuts in Red Dead Redemption 2 aren't very realistic, and they don't always appear exactly where you slice. But it looks like Naughty Dog, being the anal retentive developers they are, very meticulous with their violence, they made sure that wherever that blade went, that's where the cut ends up. And I fucking love it. Watch. Oh, wait, we gotta go back a little bit. Because there's something I noticed about this headshot right here that blew my mind. Alright, right there. As you can see, she shot the runner in the face. Now, if you look right here, it looks like she blew an actual hole through the runner's face. It's not just an overlay. It looks like an actual hole has been blown through the runner's face. And it looks like you can actually see through it and see behind it. Which I don't even think has been done in any game other than maybe Soldier of Fortune. Because most games with gore, with body damage, it's always an overlay or a whole part of the body just vanishes. Like you don't actually see chunks and shit flying off. But look at that. That looks just like a hole was blown into the runner's face and you can see through it. How fucking insane is that, man? The amount of detail in this gore system is blowing my fucking mind. All right, here. We got the bomb, which I'm assuming is probably right there. Boom! Look at that. You got fucking his heel, you got his toes, you got chunks of his fucking stomach and shin and shit flying in the air. I mean, that body is completely obliterated. Beautiful. Now, this is probably the most detailed of the wounds when it comes to body damage. Now, this is most likely a cutscene, but you can do this move in the game. Now, as you can see, the knife was in the hole. Now look at this. Boom, blood is squirting out of the hole. As you can see, it's an actual hole. Actual damage to the NPC model. This is not an overlay. And the blood is actually coming out, splashing on her wrist. Look at that. And then she drives the knife back into the same hole she just pulled it out of. And watch what she does. Like, she drags the knife across his throat. Like, what the hell, Ellie? He would have been dead after the first stab, and then you stab him a second time and then drag the blade across his throat? You're sick, Ellie. But look at that wound. Like, the hole is right here, and then she drug the blade across. Now, in any other game, if this kill move occurred, you'd just see like a little cut mark. That's it. But look at the detail in that cut mark in The Last of Us Part 2. Holy shit. Disgusting. Now this one, I thought when she hits him in the head with the hammer, the eyeball bulges out. At least that's what it looked like. I mean, I guess maybe it kind of is bulging out, because if you look at this eye compared to this eye, this one definitely looks more like poofed out. And it's white. In this one, you can still see the pupil. But yeah, look at the detail in that. The hammer wedged into the cheek. It looks like it definitely made an actual indention. It's not just some little overlay they added. Crazy. I made this video and I don't even know what's next. Oh yeah, this one. This is my favorite one. This is like a subtle wound in the cheek, but there's so much detail in this subtle little bullet wound. You know Naughty Dog did their research. So this gun is most likely a 9mm, which is not going to leave a very big entry wound, but it will leave a pretty big exit wound. Now, as you can see, there's definitely an exit wound, but it's covered up by her hair because you can see blood all over her hair right here. And it actually looks like the bullet came out over this way. There's blood all over the hair. Now, the most impressive part about this is, in that little entry wound, you can see blood spilling out of it onto the ground. It's not like every other video game where you shoot somebody and there's just like a blood pool that magically appears. You're actually seeing the blood pouring out of the gunshot wound and causing the blood pool. The most impressive thing I've seen in a video game ever. I mean, look at that. Blood is just pouring out. Oh my god, dude. It's disgusting. And then this one, we got the explosion. You see the bits and pieces of the enemy flying, blood splashing on the walls. And then right here, here's another one of those gruesome kills, this time with a machete. She slices the chest, horror on his face, and bow. Now, if you get a good look, you can tell it's not just a cut mark on top of the head. This is an actual gash in the top of the head. And if you pay attention when she pulls out the blade, you can actually see it's a gash and not just... Damn it, you can't really see it. But as you can see, nice realistic looking blood pool. Like, blood pools in most games are not very realistic looking. They're always a little too bright, and they always are usually a little bit too circular. But these blood pools actually look like what would happen if somebody bled out IRL. Alright, you can see the cut there on her stomach, see the cut on her chest, and then pow! Boom! Right to the neck. As you can see, the blade is actually in her neck right here. You can see that there's a gash, not just an overlay. And I tried to get close up so you can actually see the gash, but it's kind of hard because the footage I downloaded is not full HD. It said 1080p, 60 frames, but when I downloaded it, it looked like this, which kind of fucking pissed me off. But as you can see, it's definitely a gash, not just an overlay. And the blood splashes on the environment too. Now here's that same kill we seen from the E3 2018 demo, where she stabs the enemy in the throat. It's a little bit different, but she definitely drags the blade across the throat. You can tell. It doesn't show it because the person didn't angle the camera low enough. You can see the blood splashing on her hand though, which is gruesome. But as you can see, they didn't lower the camera enough so you can actually see the throat. Look at the anger on Ellie's face. My goodness. Now here's that one kill. To the stomach. Pulls it out. Wound. To the throat. Blood splashes all over the throat and face. And then she drops. Now watch this. Boom. Look at that hit reaction. I mean, it's not over the top. The ragdoll's not super crazy, but I feel like that is exactly how a human body would drop if you were shot in the head. You know, just like... Now the thing I want to show off in this clip is the fact that bits of brains actually splash on the environment after you shoot somebody in the head. As you can see here, here's the head. the blood is pooling outward. Look at that. It's a blood trail pouring away from the wound. Crazy. Now right here, look, bits of brains. As you can see, a little bit of blood splash around the brain. Got some blood splashes over here. More bits and pieces of brain. The pieces are a little big, a little bit exaggerated, and I think they did that on purpose. That way they're not glorifying the violence. They pulled a Fallout, because if you play Fallout and you get a headshot, you see the big-ass eyeballs, the big-ass jawbones, the big-ass pieces of skull and brain. They did that on purpose. That way it's not super realistic, and I think that's what Naughty Dog is going for also. And what else? I don't know what's after this. There might not be any more footage after this. Oh yeah, right here we get the arm dismemberment. I want to try and pause it right as soon as she shoots so you can see the arm vanish in the muzzle flash. Damn it, go back, you dummy. Alright, here we go. Boom, right there. Muzzle flash, arm is gone. See, right here, I don't know if that's just blood splatter or if she's actually kind of blowing parts of the stomach off too. Yeah, because if you look right there, it does kind of look like some of the shotgun pellets actually hit him in the stomach too. Gruesome shit, man. I mean, this violence is next level. Oh, here we go. Yeah, this is the final footage right here. As you can see, it's blurred because, like I said, when I downloaded it, it said 1080p 60 frames, but look at the freaking pixelation, man. This video sucks. Boom. Look at that. Now, if you really pay attention, you can see bits of brains splash out and fly all over the ground behind him. See all those little bits of brains bouncing off the ground? I don't think bits of brains would actually bounce off the ground like that, but... And then as you can see, boom, exit wound right there. So the bullet went through the eye socket, out the back of the head. Brutal shit, man. And I think that's the last bit of gore I wanted to talk about. Because the rest of the video is black. I don't know what the fuck happened when I was rendering these violent segments. But I ended up making it almost 20 minutes, even though it's only 3.5 minutes worth of footage. But yeah, I just wanted to talk about the gore because, I mean, it is crazy how gruesome this fucking game is going to be, man. This game is going to disturb some people. And I think maybe even fans of the first Last of Us are going to get squeamish and may, you know, try to avoid killing people in this game just so they don't have to see the gruesome outcome. Or maybe it'll make them not even want to play it at all, because Neil Druckmann did say there are going to be fans of the first game that won't be a fan of the second game. So, could be talking about the violence, could be talking about the story. Who really knows? All I know is I'm a big fan of video game violence. My whole life I've always played like mature games with blood and gore in them. You know, I just always thought it was awesome. Now when it comes to real life violence, fuck no, dude. You know, I feel bad killing a roach in real life. But when it comes to video games, I want my video games to have the most visceral, realistic gore possible. You know, like my friend used to always try and show me rotten.com. I don't know if y'all have ever heard of this, but it's where you like see gunshot wound victims and shit. Like, oh my god, this shit literally made me nauseated. But when it comes to video game violence, I know it's fake, so it doesn't bother me at all. And I feel like we're in 2020 now. So if you're going to make a game where you're shooting people with guns, shotguns, there should be body damage and gore. If you're going to be using knives, swords, you should be able to chop heads off, chop arms off. That's all I'm saying, man. You know, over the years, I've played a lot of games with swords where you're just slicing people and then they fall over. I've played plenty of games where you're shooting people and they just fall over. And it's like the same death animations, and it's just not enjoyable to play. You gotta have that body damage, that gore. That way every kill is unique. You know what I'm saying? And it looks like The Last of Us Part 2 is definitely going to deliver on that front. But anyways, appreciate you guys for watching. What do you guys think about the gore in Part 2? Let me know in the comment section below, and I'll see you on the next one. Thanks for watching. And remember, no matter what, you keep finding something to fight for. And that something is The Last of Us Part 2.